Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise Burmeister of Credit Union Student Choice. We're the partner with Health Advantage Federal Credit Union for their student loan program. I'm really excited to be here with you to present this virtual member seminar on preparing, paying, and staying in college. We have a lot of really good content for you today. So we'll get right into it as an hour seems a little bit of a short time frame to cover so much important information. So I hope you feel free to have questions at the end. I will definitely be available to answer those. So don't hesitate to reach out with any questions after we've completed the content that we're going to go over together. So first, let's just go through, why college? Everyone seems to hear about how expensive it is. Is there still a good return by attending college? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So we know that those who continue on and get a bachelor's degree earn essentially twice as much as their high school graduate counterparts. And if they do become unemployed, they spend significantly less time on unemployment. They're more likely to get reemployed quickly than if they hadn't gone through and gotten that undergraduate degree. So there are significant benefits to pursuing a college degree. Yes, the cost is high, but there are lifelong benefits. The CFPB actually estimates that college graduates will make $1 million more over their lifetime. So it is a definite worthwhile investment to make for that student. Some other reasons that you want to make sure you think about a college education is that better starting salaries. You're going to start off making additional funds right away out of college. And some of these on the screen we just mentioned. Some important things to know: it's never too early to start preparing for college. You should really, even before you get to high school, have the mindset of what you're taking in high school, what grades you're achieving, what courses you're picking are all relevant to the eventual college that you're going to attend and how much potential financial aid or scholarships you're going to be able to receive. So it's really important to stay focused and save as much money as you can all throughout high school. What you'll see later on in the presentation is that the more you can pay just right out of pocket that you don't have to take a loan for, you will save yourself thousands of dollars in interest. So saving money, being able to pay out of pocket when you possibly can is really advantageous. The other thing I would say as you're preparing for college is to really look at a cost-benefit approach. So if you are thinking about doing things like prep classes or tutoring, make sure you look at, how much is this tutoring service going to cost versus what do I think I might get in additional financial aid if I get my GPA up, another 0.25%. So really be analytical about it and look at what am I paying for this service versus what in the long run do I think I will get in financial aid or scholarships to help me, justify making those expenses. So start early, stay active, and keep a good focus. It's important all the way through, even back to your freshman year. All of your college admission offers will be conditional. So you want to make sure that you stay very active your senior year, keep that grade point average up. You don't want to commit to more than one college or have significant grade changes. The college that admits you wants to know that when you get to campus, you're still the same student that they looked at during the admissions process. Really important to know too that you want to make sure that your social media reflects the type of student that you are. Anything on your social media, you want to make sure that that actually is something you want the admissions office to see. We've have heard in recent years of admissions being rescinded based on information that students put out on social media. Even so, Harvard just 2 years ago rescinded admission to 12 students for things they had posted and what they thought was a private chat. So you can just never be too careful. Make sure anything on your social media is admissions appropriate. 2020 was very different based on the pandemic, and we have seen some changes on campus. Really good news for you seniors. A lot of campuses have already announced that they're going to reestablish college visits. Admitted student days are going to be happening in person as they have in the past. Many are going to be able to live on campus in the fall, just as they have traditionally. Whereas last fall, a lot of people opted to do virtual classes and didn't go to campus as they otherwise would have. So we'll continue to see how things play out, but based on what we're hearing to be announced by colleges and universities, the vaccinations that many people are receiving, we do think that fall 2021 will look much more like college falls of the past. So good news for you seniors and for you juniors who are going to be doing college visits next year. All right, so let's talk the important subject here, scholarships. You really want to get scholarships as soon as you possibly can. Most are eligible for application for seniors. There are a handful that will be eligible for juniors, and then they'll hold the funds for you until you become enrolled. But realize there are a variety of reasons that you could be eligible for a scholarship. It could be based on merit, which is the one most people think about. You've got a really great GPA, or you have a super score on your ACT or SAT. There are often athletic scholarships, but realize that's not it. There are other specialty scholarships that are out there. So you want to make sure you do a lot of research, find out what might be available to you, and don't discount those smaller awards. So, everybody looks at the $25,000 Coca-Cola scholarship, but you could very well have some local Kiwanis or Lions clubs or Rotary clubs that are offering a $500 scholarship. So you're going to have less people applying for those. So it's a smaller pool, it's a smaller scholarship, but if you get, 5 of those $500 scholarships, that's equal to one $2,500 scholarship that might take you, a lot more time and energy to get. So do be prolific when it comes to scholarships. Apply for as many as you possibly can. One of the other things I would say for scholarships is that you can utilize some of this technology here. So you can go to these sites. Oftentimes you'll fill out a profile about yourself or share information about what you're interested in studying, and they can help you identify scholarships that might fit with your intended major or your career goal. And they oftentimes have a link right to that scholarship application. So make sure you take advantage of these larger services to search for scholarships. And then absolutely work directly with your guidance counselor, because they will have the inside track on a lot of those local scholarships that aren't going to be publicized on these national sites. So they're the ones that frequently have information on those Rotary Club scholarships, or the smaller ones in your community. Most counseling offices at the high school also keep a record of other scholarships that students have been awarded in the past. So that's a great resource to know, what somebody else found last year that you might be eligible to apply for this year. So, keep at it. It's definitely a worthwhile endeavor. I like to tell students that if you spend 10 hours and get a $500 scholarship, you make $50 an hour, and that's more than you're going to get at a part-time job. You don't have to pay taxes on it, and you could have done it in your pajamas on the couch. So it's really worthwhile to spend some time looking for those scholarships, applying, create a basic template about who you are as a student, what you'll be studying, because if they do require an essay, you can use that, multiple times over and then just change it as needed. You definitely have a scholarship opportunity through the credit union. You can see the link here to apply. This year's opening has passed. Applications were due by March 6th, but for all of the juniors and sophomores, mark your calendars because you want to make sure and take advantage of the scholarship opportunities through your credit union as well. Don't miss out on that one. Some things you want to keep in mind as you're looking for scholarships: follow all of the instructions. I know that sounds very simple, but it's oftentimes a way that scholarship committees will weed out applicants. If they know they're going to get 100 responses and they only have 10 scholarships to award, they're just going to immediately discard anybody that didn't follow directions. So follow those instructions, use reference letters, highlight your community involvement, your charity work. When you do those reference letters, think about providing a different perspective of you as a student. So they're going to know your grade point average. They're going to know your ACT or SAT scores if you've taken those. But maybe those reference letters could be a way to talk about how you're very much a team player, that you're willing to help other people, that you are community minded. So you can really reveal other things about yourself using those reference letters. If you have a part-time job, definitely include that. It's been proven that students who work are more successful than students without a job because you have to learn how to balance the schedule and maximize the time that you have to get your schoolwork done as well as be on the job. And then lastly, just beware of scams. Scholarships are free money. If you are ever asked to pay to be considered for a scholarship or pay to find scholarships, that's a huge red flag. You should never have to pay to get scholarship information or to apply for a scholarship. If you're being asked to pay something, then more than likely it's a scam. So just be cautious out there because unfortunately there are a lot of people who are looking to take advantage of students and their families as they look for scholarships. All right, things to avoid doing. Only applying for private scholarships. Make sure you're doing your FAFSA. We'll talk about the FAFSA in just a few minutes. Keep applying. Really, we see a lot of activity applying for scholarships as students go into the freshman year of college. But don't forget, there are scholarships that you're going to be eligible for as a sophomore in college, and especially as juniors and seniors in college. A lot of scholarships are only available to students working within their major. So don't, just focus on finding scholarships before your freshman year. The game's not over. You should continue to apply for scholarships. And, I've seen students who didn't necessarily have, a lot of scholarships as they went into their freshman year. But as a freshman college student, they did really well. And then that opened doors for scholarships their sophomore year. So please, keep in mind, this is an every year of college process. You don't want to give up just after your freshman year. Follow all the directions, make sure you meet the deadlines. That's another way that scholarship committees just, eliminate people from the process. If it's due by midnight on a certain date, make sure it's in before midnight on that date. And just stay active and persistent. Think of it as that part-time job I described. All right, so really important, get your scholarship searches going, apply for as many as you possibly can. I'm an advocate as well. If you don't necessarily tick all the boxes or, have everything that they're looking for, still apply. All they can do is say, nope, you're not eligible. But a lot of times for smaller scholarships, especially, they don't get a lot of applicants. And so you very well could get chosen even though you didn't fit all of the criteria if you just apply. All right, importantly too, where are you going to spend all that scholarship money? You want to find the college that is the right fit for you as a student. And so there are lots of things that you can consider as you look at choosing your college. First and foremost, is this university accredited? are they participating in federal financial aid? Is this school within my budget? Do I have the financial resources? Do I meet the admissions requirements? It's really interesting this year. All of the Ivy League colleges have seen an extreme amount of applications. And that's because many of them announced that they weren't going to use ACT or SAT scores. So students who would have not applied because they knew their SAT or ACT score wasn't high enough are applying this year. So take advantage of those situations, but also be realistic. If you know that the student typically admitted to that university has an ACT score of 34 and you're coming in with a 26, you can certainly apply, but be realistic. The other thing is, if you're applying, make sure that if you're being charged to apply for admission, that you see if there is a fee waiver. So a lot of times colleges will, charge to make application, but you can email the admissions office and say, hey, I really would like to apply, but this charge to apply is a hurdle for me. Can you waive this, or do you have any vouchers so that I don't have to pay this? Most admissions offices do have vouchers, or they're able to waive a certain number of admission fees. So ask. It may be that they've used them all up. They might say no, but it's a worthy ask, and it might save you $50 to $75 that you would otherwise have to pay. So keep that in mind as well. Once they're again doing campus tours, maybe you go on the campus tour as a junior, ask at the time you take the tour, hey, do you have vouchers or waivers for the admissions fee? And a lot of times they'll say yes, or they'll even hand those out while you're on campus. So important information for you if you can save a few dollars there. Also really important to look at, what are the job placement rates for the school? How many people that start this college actually end up at graduation? We know that graduation is the #1 predictor for being able to repay any student loans that a student may take out. So it's important to know, am I going to get support from this college even once I've graduated? And are they going to help me get to graduation? And so you might be thinking, well, great, Denise, this is all information I'd like to have, but where on earth am I going to find all of this? Well, the feds make it really easy for you. There's a site, the College Navigator. This is housed and maintained by the National Center for Education Statistics. And all of those data elements that we just looked at are available for you. So you can, search your school and then look at their information. Not only will they tell you this information about the school, but they'll list out for you for the last 4 years what the cost has been for that college and exactly what has been awarded in financial aid. So you can see, is this a school that has, very minimal cost increases each year? So if I started as a freshman, I pretty much know by the time I'm a senior, it's going to be relatively the same cost. Or has this college had a history of really ratcheting up the expense each year? So you want to keep your eye on that. And then obviously seeing what they're awarding in financial aid can be extremely helpful. The other thing you want to pay attention to on the College Navigator site when you look at that financial aid information is the type of award that they're giving. So are they giving, your standard federal aid options, or is there institutional money? You want to take a special look at institutional awards, because that's money that college themselves has and are able to award to students. Oftentimes, the eligibility for that institutional money will coincide with completing your FAFSA and doing the regular financial aid process. Other universities may have a separate deadline for institutional funds. So that's why you want to make sure once you go out to College Navigator to also go to that school's financial aid website and see if they have any separate deadlines or processes for any money that the college itself awards. because you don't want to miss out on that pool of money. All right, application process. 7 things you want to make sure to keep in mind. When you're looking at your high school career, what was your core strength? That's what admissions counselors tell us all the time, that they look at most heavily. How rigorous was the course load that this student took? Did the coursework they took in high school prepare them to get to college and be successful? They would much rather see a student that has, a slightly lower GPA that took a rigorous course load than someone with a higher GPA that took a lot of easy classes, because maybe those easy classes didn't prepare them for college level coursework. So, this is sort of the order in which they look at, what they're going to take into consideration. So first, course strength, test scores, which this year may be optional, then your GPA, your essay that you may submit, your interest, all of those extracurricular activities that you're doing, how do those relate to your career goal or your intended major? They would much rather see, quality over quantity. So they want to know that what you're doing outside of school really supports what your goals are in college. And then lastly, teacher and counselor recommendations can have a lot of weight. If they're willing to say, hey, this student, while they might not have the highest GPA, I have seen them grow as an individual from their freshman year to their senior year in these ways. So you can absolutely lean on teachers and counselors to help you. Importance of ethics. I'm not going to talk about this too much, but just be honest about everything. If an essay needs to be written, parents, do not write your student's essay. This is extremely important. Admissions counselors tell us all the time, I suspect that mom wrote this, or I suspect that dad wrote this. They want to know that student. So make sure your student is writing their own essay. Students realize too that oftentimes admissions offices will run that essay through services like Turnitin to make sure there's no plagiarism or you didn't, download one off of the internet. So just be honest about everything. If you have something on your academic record that you're like, whoops, that's okay. Just explain that and share what you're doing differently or how you're approaching things, having learned, whatever it is you learned from that situation. So don't let that be a deterrent for you, if possibly you have something on your, academic transcript that isn't the most flattering. All right. So you're searching for those scholarships, you narrow down where you want to go to school, how you're going to apply, what's it going to cost. So this is prepared by the College Board. This is the agency that manages the SAT. You can see here a public 4-year in-state school right now in the US averages just under $26,000 a year. A 4-year private school averages over $52,000 a year. So A, you're probably having sticker shock no matter what, but B, don't let that private school sticker price deter you from applying to those schools. These are averages. And so you have to realize that a lot of times private schools will have institutional money, like I described, that they can award that will make them comparable, sometimes even less expensive than the in-state schools. So don't, based on these averages, say, hey, I'm not applying to any private schools because I just don't want to pay $52,000 a year. It very well could be that once you apply to that private school, your public school, you put those award letters down side by side and see which is the better value for you. So if you have interest in a more expensive school, don't let that be a deterrent. Don't look for lowest cost option. You really want to apply to all the schools you're interested in and make sure you compare award letters to see what might be the best decision for you. All right, path to college. You're going to first apply. You're going to get accepted. You're going to visit the financial aid office or visit their site. You're going to look at, what that published cost of attendance is. The next really big important piece is to complete the FAFSA. So if you're a senior in high school right now, the FAFSA opened for you on October 1st. So get your FAFSA completed. You don't have to have your taxes for this year done. You're going to use your prior year's tax return to complete the FAFSA. So make sure if you're a senior that you get that FAFSA done right away. If you're a junior in high school, mark your calendar. October 1st, you're going to submit your FAFSA for your first year in college. Once that FAFSA is completed, you can list up to 10 universities that you want to receive your information. So you still may be shopping around for which school is going to be the right fit, and you want to see what they're going to award to you. You can send your information to up to 10 universities. What happens once that FAFSA is completed, they're going to create a student account record and an institutional account record that's going to go either to you as the student or to the financial aid office. Based on the results of the FAFSA, that's what they're going to use to create an award letter for you, so that you can compare what each university is making available to you in financial aid. The free application for federal student aid, I've mentioned that several times already. The FAFSA, this probably isn't new to you. Hopefully your high school has also been making you aware of the FAFSA. So you want to get that done right away. This is the official URL for the FAFSA. Just like scholarship scams, there are a lot of FAFSA scams. So please make sure you are on the .gov site. If you are not on the .gov, if you're on .edu, .org, it's a scam. And as you're typing in your information, they're stealing your identity. So make sure you're on the official FAFSA website. That's extremely important. And obviously you want your information to go to the correct colleges and get there safely. So start by doing your FAFSA October 1st. For seniors, right now is the time to go and get it done. It's been open since then. Once that FAFSA goes to the financial aid office, they're going to build an award letter. And these are the types of aid that you might see presented to you on your award letter. So there are going to be scholarships and grants that you're eligible for based on the FAFSA. Also remember, you're doing scholarship searches for private scholarships that aren't related to the FAFSA. You might get awarded work study. The loans we'll definitely talk about, and then institutional programs. So those might be the dollars that we talked about that your individual school might have available to award you. Some colleges will also have their own institutional loan programs that they might make available. But once they get your FAFSA results, these are all of the different types of aid that you might see listed on your award letter. And so what does that mean exactly? You want to get your FAFSA in, make sure you're sending it to the right place. You do this each and every year. So the FAFSA process is for your freshman year, sophomore, junior, senior year. You have to reapply each and every year. Parents who are attending, if you have more than one student who will be in college, you will do a separate FAFSA for each student. So if you have a son and a daughter and both are going to be in college at the same time, you'll do a FAFSA for your son and a separate FAFSA for your daughter. There is some, ID that you can use for both, but you will have separate submissions for every child that you have in college. So what to expect? You're going to get those award letters and offers from the universities that you submitted your results to, and then you're going to review those to determine what exactly do I need. So congratulations, your student has been awarded from University of Success, some loans, a grant, a state scholarship, and federal work study. So they're going to receive a total of $10,000 here's this not so exciting news. The cost to attend University of Success is $20,000. So you've got $10,000 that you need to make up for. And so what do we want to take a look at? Well, first of all, you want to determine what are the fixed costs? What are the things that I really can't make any changes to? Those are things typically like tuition, fees. That's the same for everyone, you know, regardless of other circumstances. The flexible costs are where you can make some adjustments to help bring down that cost that you still have to pay. Appeals are important, especially as we come out of, you know, COVID-19. As I mentioned, if you're doing the FAFSA for your senior, you're not using your tax return from this year, you're using the prior year's tax return. And so a lot could have changed between when you filed those taxes and today when you're filling out the FAFSA. If you think you need to appeal, you want to do that early, and we have a little more information on the appeals. And then also, you know, is there other income that you might be able to rely on? Maybe that student's going to get a part-time job, or, you know, many colleges will offer tuition payment plans, which are a great resource, and I'll share more with you on those. All right, so let's talk about eliminating some of those unneeded flexible expenses. So we know that the $10,000 that we still needed to come up with to attend University of Success included room and board. So that's, you know, rent for the dorm room or wherever they're going to be on campus. That's their food meal plan, their books, personal expenses, and transportation. So you can really make an impact in these flexible expenses. You still have to pay the tuition and fees, no way of getting around that usually. But maybe you decide you're just going to live at home with parents and save the $4,000 a year. Or, you know, maybe this $4,000 is for a dorm room with one roommate. And maybe you decide, well, you know, to save money, I'm going to move into a dorm with 2 additional roommates. So, you know, that could maybe bring your cost down from $4,000 to $3,000. So, you know, food budget, you know, maybe you decide you're going to drive home, you know, a couple days a week and eat at home, or, you know, instead of doing the gold meal plan, you do the bronze meal plan, and then you prepare, you know, meals in your dorm room itself. Books is another great place to save money. If you're not tied to a physical textbook, if you're okay with reading your book on a tablet or on your phone, you can get, you know, a digital copy of that same book for, you know, $100, whereas the physical book might cost you $280, $300. Also, when you get to campus, you'll find out that via social media, there will be book exchanges. So there are sites where you can go and say, hey, I've got a Gen Chem book. Here's the publisher and the date. I'll trade this for general biology. And, you know, you meet at the student union and switch books off. So just be creative. You know, there are lots of online sources like Chegg, where you can go and find books that reduce costs. So, you know, just think about where are some areas that I can, you know, economize and eliminate some of this, you know, additional money that I'm paying out. Because if you don't have to take a loan for it, you're saving even more. When to consider an award appeal. You know, if you've had change in income, employment, you've got excessive medical bills, any of the reasons listed here, you could potentially appeal to the financial aid office. My word of advice is do this sooner than later. Many times appeals are handled by a committee, or there's one person in the office that handles appeal cases. So if that committee only meets once a month, your award could be delayed based on when the committee meets. Or if the person who handles appeals is very busy, you know, it could be weeks before they get around to your file. So if you think you're going to need to appeal, do that very early on to give yourself as much time as possible so that you're not sweating it, you know, as move-in day approaches, having your award reviewed. All right, value-based approach. This is highly recommended. We want to make sure that you first take advantage of all the free money you can get, grants, scholarships, tuition discounts that your college may offer. Next layer is going to be your federal direct loan. And then here are some of the options available to help fill that gap between what you've received in free and cheap money and what you still have to pay in order to attend the university. So we'll talk a little bit more closely about these. First, free, we spend a lot of time on scholarships already, so make sure you're applying for as many of those as you possibly can. The federal grants listed here, these are based on your FAFSA. So depending on how much need you have in your household, as determined when you complete the FAFSA, you could be awarded some of these grants. The federal Pell Grant is truly based on household income. So the lower your household income, the more you might receive in a federal Pell Grant. The Iraq and Afghanistan Service Grant, I actually hope nobody gets this. This means you have a parent that died in Iraq or Afghanistan, and you would be eligible for this award if that were the case. The Federal Supplemental Educational Opportunity Grant is anywhere from $100 to $4,000 a year. Again, the lower your income, the higher the award. So realize this is all driven by the FAFSA. And then lastly is the TEACH grant. So if you're an education major, you have an opportunity to receive a TEACH grant. As part of the TEACH grant award, you're going to be required to work for a certain period of time, typically 4 years, in an underserved community. So that usually means very low income or remote. If you fulfill that requirement and teach for the designated amount of time in one of those underserved communities, it was a grant. However, if you don't do that, your grant converts into a loan and then has to be repaid. So if you do get awarded a TEACH grant, the financial aid office will disclose that to you, but be aware it does have the ability to convert to a loan. Federal work study. This is a part-time job on campus. If you get awarded federal work study, I would encourage you to definitely accept it. They pay at least minimum wage. The big advantage is that for federal work study, they're much more flexible than an outside employer. So as your schedule changes, as you take different classes each semester, they're going to say, oh, okay, great, we'll come in these hours, based on your new schedule. Whereas a part-time job off campus might say, hey, we need you here every Tuesday from 2 to 4. So if your biology lab conflicts with that, it's just not going to work out. So another big advantage is you get to meet a lot of the faculty and staff at the college, and that can be great for job hunting in the future and having some connections, especially if you can get a job within the department where you're studying. Tuition payment plans, I love, love, love these. This is a great way to pay for college as you go. So this is oftentimes administered through the billing or bursar's office. You will pay a small fee, $75 is pretty typical, but this lets you make 10 monthly installments to the college throughout the semesters. So for fall semester, spring semester, you'll make monthly payments and it's 0% interest. So it's a great way to pay as you go. You don't have to commit to the full tuition bill. So let's say you still owe $5,000 and if you split that up over the 10 months, it will be $500 a month. And you say, hey, there's no way I can swing $500 a month. That's okay. Sign up for tuition payment plan for $2,000 and pay $200 a month, because that's $2,000 that you don't have to pay interest on. And that's way more valuable to you in the long run. So realize you can sign up for an amount less than the full balance that you owe, but a great way to get 0% interest. And then the cheap loan option, we would encourage everybody to take this. This is a loan made in the name of the student. comes directly from the federal government. It is awarded to the student. They have to be making academic progress, degree seeking, a high school graduate, U.S. citizen. And then the great part is when you submit your FAFSA, you know, if you have financial need as determined by the FAFSA in your household, it may be that the government will pay some of the interest on that loan for you while you're in school. So the interest rate is fixed at 2.75%. There's a small origination fee. If the government isn't paying the interest for you, the student would be paying the interest. But when you think about it, a student who just graduated high school may have had a job previously, but may or may not, no credit history, to get a fixed rate loan at 2.75% is a really good deal. So we encourage all students, if you're awarded the direct student loan, it's the first one that you want to accept. The downside is that it's not a large amount of loan. So if you're looking at paying $25,000 for the year as a freshman, the most you can receive is $5,500. If there's financial need in the household, the government will pay the interest on $3,500 of the $5,500 loan. You don't get both. You get simply $5,500, and if there is need, they'll subsidize $3,500 worth of that in interest. So it just doesn't go a long way. So that's why most people are still going to need some additional funds. You can see it does slightly increase as you progress through college, and independent students can actually borrow at higher levels. And here's the criteria for independent students. You can see, this is not your traditional student. So most students are going to be in this dependent student category. And so they're going to have lower amounts that they're able to borrow. All right, so what do? You've gotten all the scholarships you can, you've gotten your grants, you've taken your federal work study, you've signed up for tuition payment plan, and you still have a balance. So here's some other options to help fill that gap. Some families will have set aside money in a 529 plan. Some will intend to use home equity loans. You are going to have two main options for lending as you look to fill the gap. We definitely discourage using any retirement accounts to pay for education because you can always borrow student loans for education. You can't borrow for retirement in most cases. So it's really good to think about keeping your retirement accounts intact. So let's look at the two main loan options that families are going to consider. So first is the Federal Direct Plus loan. This is a loan made directly to the parent of the student. So the student's name is not on this loan. You can borrow up to the full cost of attendance. It's a fixed interest rate of 5.3%. But here's the downside. It's got a whopper of an origination fee, over 4%. So if I'm taking out a $10,000 plus loan, I'm paying $422 just to get the loan. You get 10 years to pay it off, and you can defer these payments while the student is in school. So you don't have to make payments while they're in school. So that's the federal option. Private student loans are a little bit different. Because they're going to be based on a partnership that is between the student and a credit-worthy co-borrower. You should not replace your federal direct student loan with a private loan. You definitely consider whether you want to get a plus loan or a private loan, but you should definitely take your direct student loan first. And then this is going to be information about how private student loans are different from the plus loan. So while that plus loan is available just to parents, either biological, adoptive, sometimes a step parent, private student loans can be with a student and any credit-worthy co-borrower, and they're both going to have responsibility for repaying that student loan. Just like the plus loan, you can defer payments on these while you're in school. And then the big perk for the private student loan is you typically get a much longer repayment period. So this is general marketplace information. Now let's look specifically at Health Advantage. It's very different than the traditional student loan. Just like the FAFSA that you have to fill out as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, a senior, for student loans, you also have to apply as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior, and a senior. So your credit union allows you to open a line of credit that can be used for up to 60 months. So you have it out there ready to go, and you can draw against it for up to 5 years, which is really phenomenal. You can borrow as much as $75,000. They have a listing of eligible schools. In the state of Michigan, that's all of your big schools. And I'll show you where you can find that list available to you. And then their rates start as low as 6.25%. So the flexibility of being able to have this open and available and not having to go through origination each and every year is really fabulous. All right, so more details. No origination or prepayment penalties. This is great because you're not going to pay anything to get that line opened, and you're going to get 20 to 25 years to pay it back. So if you owe more than $40,000 when you enter repayment, you get 25 years to pay it off. Less than $40,000, you get 20 years. This makes for a much more affordable monthly payment. But the great thing is, with no prepayment penalties, if you can pay it off sooner, you absolutely can. Save yourself some interest, but you have that flexibility of a lower monthly payment if you need it. You also can reduce your interest rate by 0.25% when you sign up to have your payments automatically deducted. And you can opt when that line is open to fully defer it, meaning you're not going to make payments on it while the student is in school and for 6 months after they leave school, or you could opt to make interest only payments or full principal and interest. So whatever works best with your budget. The other nice thing is, once the line goes into repayment, let's say that your student graduates, yay, they get their first job, even better. But when they see their starting salary, it's a bit of a struggle. In that case, the credit union will allow for this loan to be repaid in a much smaller monthly payment the first 2 years. So that gives the student time to find a job that has a better salary, or maybe they get pay increases for those 2 years. And so they're better prepared to, fully repay the loan after that. So it's a wonderful option that the credit union makes available. They have those lower monthly payments for the first 2 years, and then you can pay off that remaining balance in the remainder of the term. And of course, you could always pay it off early if you wanted to. One of the great things that co-borrowers love is that there is a co-borrower release option. So once that student is in repayment, they've made at least 48 continuous on-time payments, the co-borrower can apply to the credit union to be released from responsibility. So the borrower, that student, their credit would be run. If they meet the underwriting criteria, the same criteria that was used when the line was open, then the co-borrower's name can be taken off, which is really great, because a lot of parents and co-borrowers, they want to help that student get through college, successfully enter repayment, but at some point they want to retire or do other things themselves. And so with co-borrower release, that really makes it an option for that to happen. The rates, information on the program is all available right from the credit union's website. So if you were to go to your normal Health Advantage credit union site, loans, and then student loans, you'll come to this co-branded site. Rates for their programs are always available right here. If you wanted to confirm that the school that your student is attending is one of their eligible schools, you could do so right here. The frequently asked questions, great online resource. Maybe you think, well, Does the student have to be a member of the credit union? If I, as the co-borrower, am a member of the credit union, that information would be here for you. And then the resources, this is for those students, this is great financial literacy information that you can use going forward. We're available to answer any questions 24/7. There's a dedicated toll-free number for Health Advantage members that you can call and speak. You know, if you have any questions about the online application process, you'll apply right online. Everything happens digitally. It's also mobile friendly, so it's a simple process to get applied. One of the things I wanted to highlight for you here as well is that right in this plan for college dropdown, let's say you leave this member seminar this afternoon and you think, this was great, I learned so much information. And then a week later, it starts to get a little bit fuzzy and you think, I know she mentioned something about that, but I don't quite recall. That's typically what happens to me. That's okay. You don't have to have this information memorized. If you come to this plan for college dropdown, you're going to see a link for our college access and repayment counselor. You can schedule right from the website a 30-minute one-on-one phone meeting with our college access counselor to ask any questions that you have. Doesn't have to be about the credit union's line of credit, could be about the FAFSA or scholarship searches, or maybe you have an older child that's already graduated and they're thinking about going back to school and how do I pay for that? Anything related to financing higher education, you can reach out to our college access and repayment counselors, schedule that 30-minute one-on-one phone meeting, no cost to you to do that, and they'll be glad to talk to you personally about any questions that you have and can help you in that way as well. So please do take advantage of that as well. All right, this is the link directly to our college access counselor. You can submit questions online here, or again, schedule that 30-minute one-on-one phone meeting. I really appreciate everyone's time and attention. I hope you found this helpful. I wish everyone much success in applying for college, getting into the college you want, and then being able to pay for it. Vanessa, are you going to open the lines for any questions?
Yep, I'm here. As long as you're able to stay on, if anyone has any questions, feel free to send them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask your question.
All right, I have the chat box up in case anything comes through. And again, thank you. I'm so glad that you found this helpful. The other thing I would say as we're waiting to see if any additional questions come in is that the more events like this you can attend, the better. So, if you've got a sophomore or a junior, continue to come to events like these, go to the ones at your high school, because different speakers will focus in on different areas and you'll learn something new and different in each one. So I would encourage everybody to continue doing events like these. Well, Vanessa, I'm seeing lots of feedback, but no questions. So feel free to use the Scholar Help link to ask anything that comes to mind later. And you can always find it right on the credit union's website, if you didn't jot this down. All right.
All right, Denise, thank you so much again for your time. If there's no questions, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. And I do just want to remind everybody on the line that this presentation was recorded. You'll all be receiving a recorded presentation. So if you need to review any of the information, look for that email coming to you soon. And thank you again, Denise. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.